Welcome to the Anxious Love Coach podcast, the place to be to create meaningful, conscious, secure, long-term partnerships. Here we talk relationship anxiety and creating healthy dynamics with your partners so that you can experience that secure, loving connection where you both feel committed and confident. My name is Natalie Kennedy and I'm your host. I'm a relationship anxiety coach and meditation teacher. I've had a practice for 9 years working with clients battling anxiety. And after experiencing an extraordinary shift in my own healing relative to relationships, now work to combine my personal experience as well as my training to help others trust themselves within relationship. I've been to the edge and back with my partner for my own relationship anxiety and have come out the other side, feeling consistently blessed and at ease in my partnership. I want to pass the tools I've learned along to you to help you trust yourself in relationships and also create magnetic dynamics with your partner. Our partners are our mirrors designed for our expansion, and the challenges exist generally to wake us up to ourselves, not destroy our beautiful partnerships. I believe most mainstream relationship advice today can be a huge source of anxiety and dissatisfaction. So let's jump in and normalize the challenges that we go through, call out the limitations of today's messages about love without being old-fashioned, and awaken our intuition and wisdom. If you haven't yet, be sure to join our communities over on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Anxious Love Coach. You can also request a 30-minute relationship anxiety assessment with either me or my co-coach Sheridan for one-on-ones, or join one of our group programs over on my website at www.anxiouslovecoach.com. I've also got a wonderful relationship anxiety meditation for you as thanks for subscribing to my email list. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Anxious Love Coach podcast. It's Natalie. I'm so glad to be here with you. It is currently almost 10 o'clock at night, and the impulse to record has come. So I have set some little rose incense, and I made myself a little rose cup of tea. I'm having a little thing with rose lately. I think it was because of the podcast I recorded with my friend Katie a few weeks ago. She had a lot of rose stuff in her house, and I was like, yeah, I could really use some rose. So I will do my best to not sip my tea loudly in front of you, but if I do, I will make sure to cut those out for my own enjoyment and for yours. In today's episode, I want to give you 3 kind of tips to work with jealousy in your partner. Now, there are really, in my opinion, 4 quadrants of jealousy, 4 quadrants of dilemmas, not so much problems, but 4 potential positions where jealousy can be a problem. And actually in today's episode, I'm just going to be working with one of those quadrants. So maybe I will go through some other quadrants in future episodes. But the quadrant I want to work with specifically is what to do if you yourself are experiencing jealousy in partnerships. So in this episode, I'm going to give you essentially 3 tips to help you alleviate jealousy, and also at the same time not alleviate it, because it's actually not something to get rid of, but more something to integrate in a conscious way. It's not like no jealousy is good and having jealousy is bad. It's not quite like that, like many issues in life. It's hardly as black and white as we would like to initially tell ourselves. So as usual, I'd like to get under the surface and help you out. And my hope is that through learning this, you're going to feel a lot more confident in your partnership. And also, I hope it'll help you love yourself, and by extension, love the part of you that has it in you to be jealous. Before I do that, it's been a little while, and I think I alluded to this very briefly in my podcast with my friend Katie, but because I had the privilege of having her on as a guest, I did not spend as much time talking about some transitions that are going on in my life. So if you don't want to hear about what's been going on in Anxious Love Coach, and for me personally within this beautiful, beautiful company, maybe skip ahead. I don't know how long it will be, but when I start, if you want to skip ahead until I start talking about jealousy, then go for it. But for those of you that want to know what's been near and dear to my heart lately, I've been going through some enormous transitions lately, and arguably even going through what we might call another dark night of the soul. This is a very common term used in a lot of spiritual communities. I usually would like to reference who coined this term, but at this moment, it just came naturally, and I don't want to look it up. You could look up, where did this term get coined? But I certainly did not. And the thing that's been happening for me is just a real hefty reprioritization of what's important to me. I think the last couple of years, my number one priority has been my business and seeing just how far I could go. Obviously, for whatever reason, I've been gifted some kind of gift to be able to speak on relationships from my own experience and from my studies and my training through yoga, through tango, through my meditation studies, and also the biggest study of my life is my 10-year partnership. That has done. I've learned more from that than any certification program I have gotten, and that often is the case. But for whatever reason, I was gifted this ability to speak on it in a way that, for whatever reason, resonates, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think when I realized that I'd been gifted something, I ran with it as far as I could go. And I guess we could say that my ambition was limitless for a few years, and I wanted to see how far I could take it. And I think up until a few months ago, I was still steamrolling ahead. And then I had my Aliveness from Within retreat in Southern California. Not Southern California, but California. And I had 5 women attend. And believe it or not, the day of the retreat, I got really, really sick. I'm not going to go through all the details, but it essentially forced me to, first of all, check in with all my clients and say, listen, I'm sick. Do you still want to come? They all did. Nobody got sick, thank God, knock on wood. But anyway, long story short, it ended up being a life-changing experience for me as a practitioner. I believe it was a transformative experience for our attendees based on the beautiful testimonials I received and thank you messages. And at the same time, retreats don't finish the work for us. Like they begin, actually, for a lot of people, the work begins after the retreat. It's like, okay, how do I take what I learned from the retreat and keep it going? But it was a transformative experience beyond words. There were many moments where I was weeping in the shower because I was so grateful I got to do this work for a living. And prior to the retreat, I was a little nervous. I was like, I know how to work online. I know how to do podcasts. I know how to do Instagrams, TikToks, and lives. And I know how to facilitate online programs. I know how to work one-on-one with people. But the thing about being online is I'm behind a screen, and when there's a screen, I can filter it, I can fix it, I can edit it. And I was thinking, am I going to be able to be that presence in person? And turns out the answer was astoundingly not only yes, but better. And there were many moments while I was hosting the retreat where I was like, holy shit, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And the variable of touch and no filter and being able to not just do sessions online and then go back into the ether of doing whatever you want and then coming together to just like work hard and like do grunt inner work and trauma healing and all of these things. And then just never see the humans in these other contexts. I realize there's a very real limitation to online work. And I think we all know this, but I got to see the extent. Because when we would get together in our sessions and we would do our inner work and we would do our embodiment practices, we would do our parts work in person, which is outstanding and so fun and healing at the same time. But then after that, we would like have dinner, or we would play games, or we would just sit on the couch by the fire and talk, and like to have that time to not be working, not trying to heal, but just like being able to really integrate our experience and experience our humanity in a human level and create this divine sisterhood. I just realized that this is what's been missing for me so much. And I could not unfeel that. I couldn't unsee the sacredness of in-person work. And as soon as the retreat was done, I decided I did not want to be online anywhere near as much as I currently was. And the first manifestation of that realization was cutting like 80% of my time off social media. So I've gone through a full-on breakup with Instagram. I'm not off it completely, obviously. I still have a presence there, but I come on maybe once or twice a week. I'm still on TikTok. For whatever reason, that doesn't feel as invasive of a platform. But my priority has shifted to being here with you on the podcast. For whatever reason, this feels very intimate to me. And email as well. I'm also planning on shifting to YouTube. And this, for me, is a way of honoring my kind of inner sense that I want to move to more intimate platforms. And this is the way to do it, because unfortunately Instagram and then the structure of Instagram forces me to often lack context, and which is great. It allows us to have like bite-sized pieces of content, but really it doesn't satisfy a deeper part of us, because so much of the deeper work and the connecting with a person's energy and emotions comes with feeling into them for a little longer than a minute before you scroll on to the next person's piece of content. And I really want you guys to be able to feel me and to be able to hear all the context I would like to put into these pieces of content that are just way too short to be fully human. And then people get in arguments in the comments because it lacks context. Well, of course it does. Of course it does. It has to. It's Instagram. It can't have context. So I kind of see like Instagram as this big flea market where you come and you taste things. But if you really want to know a person's vibe, you come and you listen to their longer form content. This is where you're going to really feel me. This is where you're going to really see me. And this is the closest thing to in-person that I can provide online without actually being in person. So there's that. The second thing is Press and I have decided to officially move to Colombia. And part of that is because there's a lot of people like us there who are kind of running online businesses. And we also want to start a family soon. And the cost of living just allows me to actually kind of be a parent there and not be a boss babe and a full-time parent. I don't really want to do that. I would rather be mostly 90% a parent and still have a little bit of an online presence. So with that has come a dire need for simplicity and to be responsible for really only my livelihood. And so many of you guys might know Sheridan. You guys know her as my co-coach. I will be returning to a solo venture. So unfortunately, I let Sheridan go. You can find her on Sheridan Ruth on her own Instagram. So she will be doing her own work. She's done so much for me. But I wrote a heartfelt, we both wrote heartfelt Instagram posts with kind of more information and where to find her and kind of our reasoning and all of these things. But really, I'm in a place where I really, really need simplicity moving forward. So for those of you that have been here for the long haul, you guys know I started out as a solo venture and then I brought on Sheridan to help me kind of get the business to where it is today. And alas, I am returning to a solo business for my own kind of peace and simplicity. It's hard. It's been a lot of tough transitions. Obviously, the idea to move to Colombia, that is a difficult transition in and of itself, but it's all been beautiful for us. So I hope that wasn't too long of kind of where I'm at in my life, but I wanted to let you know, just so that it was there. For those of you that are committed listeners to this podcast, I love being as transparent as I am willing to be. Obviously, I'm not... I don't think anyone is ever 100% transparent because for personal reasons, sometimes it's a matter of safety. Sometimes it's a matter of desiring a sense of privacy. I try to gauge what extent of transparency is important in order to be ethical. But for those of you that are kind of loyal listeners and you listen to every podcast, I just wanted to let you know, because obviously I haven't been making announcements on Instagram. I haven't been on there that much. So I'm here. I still exist. And yeah, that's where I'm at. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about jealousy. In particular, there are kind of 4 quadrants to jealousy. 4 quadrants of dilemmas. I say dilemmas because it's not a problem. Jealousy is not a problem that you fix. It's like a dilemma that you work with, and I'm going to explain why. number one, there's kind of, what do I do if I'm jealous? How do I get rid of my jealousy? That's often the number one question I get regarding jealousy. So that's actually the topic I'm going to cover today. The other kind of three are, what do I do if I'm not jealous? What do I do if I wish I was experiencing more jealousy in my relationship? Like, I wish I felt more jealous of my partner. These are kind of two different spectrums of the relationship anxiety conversation. It's like, there's the people who are jealous in their relationships and they're anxious because they're worried the partner's going to cheat on them or do something. And then there's the other side, which is like, man, I wish I experienced jealousy, but like, I feel so freaking safe in my relationship. I would do anything to experience like a little bit of saucy, like zest. Like I actually want to see my partner interact with other people so that I can feel jealous. So isn't that interesting? Isn't it so interesting that we're dissatisfied when we have jealousy and we're dissatisfied when we don't? So those are kind of two different topics. I will at some point do a podcast on what to do if you're not feeling jealous and you want to be. And then there's the other side, which is, what do I do if my partner is jealous? Okay. And then there's the other side of, what do I do if my partner is not jealous? All right. So these are, as you can see, there's 4 different conversations, but to keep things simple and have the podcast be relatively short, today I'm going to give you just a few tips. Obviously there's more on what to do if you are kind of the jealous partner. And I really hope that, like I said in the beginning, that not only are you going to feel more love towards yourself, but you're also going to realize that jealousy can be its own really beautiful thing, and it's not something to necessarily get rid of. So before we talk about what to do, I want to explain kind of what's going on when we're feeling jealous. And I'm actually going to, I can't directly quote her, but I'm actually going to reference a coach that I follow and have actually worked with once, named Annie Lala. And I was feeling very jealous in my partnership at this time. Even though I'd experienced relationship anxiety in the past, there was a time when the dynamic flipped and I went from not feeling any jealousy to feeling all the jealousy. And that happened to be the time when I got a chance to work with Annie Lala and her husband, Eben Pagan, for a one-on-one call. That call is floating around somewhere on the internet. I have no idea where, but it's there. And one of the things that she said was that jealousy is actually very much programmed into our biology, and it goes beyond reason. It's like part of our, what we might call our lizard brain. So the part of your brain that is not, I'm not a brain specialist, but I do know that the front of your brain is more about your cognitive logical thinking. And then kind of the back, more base part of your brain is more about your primal impulses that you have very, very little control over. It does not matter how much logical thinking you try to throw at your lizard brain. It does not care. It has a mind of its own. And so it's an animalistic, primal aspect of us, jealousy. And actually, jealousy was very beneficial from an evolutionary perspective, according to Annie Lala, and I'm sure according to someone else whom Annie Lala quoted or got inspired by. But if you can think of jealousy as almost like what she said was your inner chimp, trying to protect, potentially, if you're a female chimp, you're trying to make sure that you don't lose the father of your babies to another female chimp. Because if you lost the father of your babies, you are suddenly exposed and vulnerable. And so it's in your best interest to make sure that the father of your children is not procreating with other female chimps, so that you keep, the protector of your family there while you're nursing your baby. So that makes sense. So jealousy would actually, in a sense, keep us safe. From another perspective, if we're not looking at the female chimp, kind of making sure that the male chimp is staying, I guess, faithful. If you were a male chimp, you would want to make sure that your sperm won out over another, your rival's sperm. So you want to make sure that you win out and you procreate with this high quality female chimp. And you want to make sure that your kind of genetics gets passed on over someone else's. And so from either side, it makes sense that from a biological perspective, jealousy was an evolutionary advantage, adaptation that allowed the survival of our species. So I just want to let you know that jealousy is not something wrong with you. It's literally in your genes. It's in your biology. You can't like get rid of it. And that's why I say it's not something to get rid of. Yes, you can cognitively reason with it, and that can be helpful to a certain extent, but it's not something that you can get rid of if you experience it. And it's also not something to get rid of. It's not a bad thing. It's just something to honor and play and work with in a more, I guess, evolved way. But it is not more evolved to not have jealousy. It is evolved to integrate it in a conscious way, right? Now, can being a jealous person ruin your relationship? Yes, of course it can. And so a lot of people respond to the knowing that jealousy can ruin relationships by stuffing jealousy down entirely and pretending it doesn't exist. Well, that's not conscious either. Unconscious jealousy is not empowerment. Unconsciously rebelling against jealousy and trying to spiritually bypass it, that's not conscious either. That's just as unconscious. It's unconscious in the opposite extreme. What would be conscious would be to work with jealousy in a much more conscious, evolved way. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I think hopefully you're starting to realize that there is a beauty to not having jealousy, and there's also a beauty to having jealousy. So if we can understand that, we can work with the pros and the cons of having or not having jealousy. And can you kind of honor your inner chimp while also honoring your higher self? That would be called integration, not being one or the other, but having aspects of both. Now, it's important to remember, and this is somewhat of a quote from the movie called, I think it's Spring, Summer, Fall, Winter, Spring. I highly recommend this film. It's a very kind of Buddhist approach. But in the film, this young man, finds the love of his life. He had a teacher that he studied under, and then he found the love of his life, left his teacher. Spoiler alert if you've watched this, but he got cheated on, and then he came back to his teacher. It's not the end of the story, but that was part of it. And one thing his teacher said is that what you desire, other people desire. And so we're left with this kind of a bit of a dilemma, a bit of this paradox, which is like, if you want to desire your partner, you're going to have to grapple with the fact that having a desirable partner means other people may desire your partner. What we desire, other people desire. And it's like, oh, what do we do with that? Because on the one hand, my partner's gotten really into self-improvement this past year, and he's been working out like crazy, and he's like super hot, and he's like attracting feminine energy. Like girls are checking him out now, and I'm like, whew, I got all these new feelings that I didn't feel when I was not so, when I didn't have a lot of attraction in the relationship due to relationship anxiety, and also my partner really not maximizing his potential at the same time. He was going through his own stuff. And so I wasn't really feeling attracted, partially, again, like I said, relationship anxiety, but also he wasn't putting that much effort in at the time to be attractive. And when that started to shift and the polarity kind of flipped in my relationship with my partner, all of a sudden he started to become very attractive. And so I started to feel more attracted. And guess what? Other people started finding him attractive as well. So it's like, oh, what do we do with this now? It's like, on the one hand, I desire you. And now there are, potential threats, according to my inner chimp. So, is it something that we fix? Do I just kill every woman that looks my partner up and down? What do I do? Do I long for the days where Preston stops taking care of himself and stops being attractive? It's like, no, and no, none of the above. So one thing I do want to speak on is that, when we do experience jealousy, assuming that you have a partner that for the most part really values being in integrity, which my husband Preston very much does, and he's not perfect. So just like me, he's not above acting out of integrity. I am not above acting out of integrity. Neither is my partner. We are mirrors of each other. My partner is capable of betraying me as much as I'm capable of betraying him, which puts us in a very vulnerable relationship. I'm fortunate and terrified to admit that we are very open with each other and have these very open conversations, and they are very difficult sometimes. But a lot of times when there is a moment of jealousy, two things are true at the same time, and this is what I've observed. Number one, when jealousy occurs, it often doesn't mean that your partner has done anything wrong. It doesn't mean they've cheated on you. It doesn't mean there's anything for you to worry about. So, number one, know that. Assuming you have a relatively, I say relatively because no one's perfect, a relatively healthy partnership where there's a culture of mutual respect and honesty and openness and safety. Assuming that, even though your partner's not perfect, if your partner cares a lot about being in integrity, when there is jealousy, know that it doesn't necessarily mean your partner has done anything wrong. So there's that. Let's establish that. The second thing that's simultaneously true is that it is possible that there is a pocket of miscommunication or a small pocket where there's not an entire congruency, or there's a pocket where we're not completely on the same page. There's maybe a pocket of unconsciousness in the relationship. So what I might mean by that is, let's say there's an agreement of what's okay and what's not okay that has not been made, and you couldn't see it until that moment. Let me try to think of an example. So maybe it's okay for your partner to, I had this discussion with Preston the other night of when we kiss people on the cheek at tango, where's the line? Is kissing the air side by side okay? Okay, that's okay. But kissing at a perpendicular angle, well, okay, it's okay with these people and not these people. Okay, how long can the kiss be? When I say negotiating these types of agreements, knowing that sometimes you're going to slip up and things are can get messy, when there's jealousy, a lot of times it's highlighting a pocket where there isn't an agreement, or something hasn't been addressed, or something has been handled in an unconscious way, right? So jealousy can highlight to us that there is some area where we can make things a little bit more conscious, or if there is an area where an agreement could be made, but it currently doesn't exist, right? So a lot of times, two things are true. Number one, it doesn't mean that your partner's done anything wrong or that they're cheating on you. And number two, it could mean that there is an area, an opportunity for a conversation to create more safety. So just be able to hold those two things, okay? Those are kind of the foundations I wanted to set up for if you notice that you tend to feel jealous in your partnership. Now, I want to move on to my 3 tips I have for you if you are the jealous partner in your relationship. So I believe that at the root of a lot of relational problems is a lack of self-love. If you find that you are preoccupied with your partner's behavior or not behavior, I want to remind you to bring the attention back to yourself and feeling into what it would mean to love yourself. So have your own life, have your own pleasureful life, your own meaningful life, and set it up in such a way that if they cheated, or if they left you, or if they got stolen by another woman or another man, you need to love yourself enough to know that you would recover and thrive at the other side of that. Whether you decide to stay with your partner or not, irrelevant, but have a life set up so that if that were to happen, you would have a support system. You would be able to feel love in your life. So, make sure you've got a brotherhood of some kind, or a sisterhood, people you can talk to, have hobbies, have things that you do that make you feel alive. If you feel dead inside at your job or you hate the way that your life is set up, yeah, your partner's gonna be kind of the one thing that's good in your life. And so of course you're gonna be really terrified to lose it. And that's gonna probably make you a lot more possessive against any threats to the relationship. However, if you've got a robust life outside of your partnership, them leaving you or them cheating on you is not going to feel like such a big threat because you've still got a strong foundation in your life of people that love you, of people that care for you. So love yourself enough to have your own life and keep your attention on you. If the jealousy is getting to a really, really strong point, again, maybe your partner is doing some really shady shit and that's another conversation. But in this particular context, I'm speaking to when your partner is really not doing anything out of integrity and the evidence supports that, and you still find yourself preoccupied. Okay, get your own life, go dancing, go dress up, go put on like an outfit that makes you feel beautiful, whether you put on makeup or not, I don't care, but do what you need to do to feel amazing about yourself. Go to the gym, do what you can do. Obviously there's, work within the ability of your body. Take as good care of your body as possible so that if the person leaves you, if the person cheats on you, you're not destroyed. A lot of people, when they're single, they take really good care of themselves so as to be kind of an attractive person on the dating market. But as soon as they get in a relationship, they stop doing that. And then they wonder why they're so terrified to lose their partner, because they think that they couldn't get anyone. Well, when you were single, you had all this confidence. And for some reason, you stopped doing the things that communicated to yourself that I love myself. Why did you stop doing that? Don't make your partner your everything when you enter a relationship. Have your own life. Do the things that you would do when you were single. Do the things that you do to demonstrate love to yourself. Have a self-love practice. Have a self-pleasure practice. Be sure to have a spiritual practice. Continue to keep yourself up in the same way that you would if you were single. And yeah, you might lose your partner. That's possible. And also, by the way, that's life. Loss is a part of life. And you want to make sure that your kind of ducks are in a row. And guess what? When you do that, your partner's probably going to feel more into you as well. So don't get lazy. I use that word very loosely. I don't mean it in a shaming sort of way. I'm speaking to the people specifically who've kind of were in their A game when they were single, and then they kind of let themselves go when they were in relationship. If you know you're hot shit, you're not going to feel quite as jealous because you're not going to feel as threatened by the loss of your partner. You're going to know that you're going to be fine. So that's number one, have your own life, okay? Number two, when you experience a moment, the previous point was like a long-term thing. This is more of the next 2 points are more short-term things to do in the moment when you are feeling jealous. Number one, with your energy and maybe even with your body language, if you're having a moment where you're feeling jealous, lean back. And I mean that almost energetically and also potentially physically. So let's say you're having an interaction with your partner and they do something or you witness something and the jealous feeling arose, and your impulse, your first lizard brain impulse is to jump in and grab their phone and want to look through everything and just almost go into full-blown attack mode in some way. Lean back, sit back, take a deep breath. What we want to do here is what John Wineland might refer to as holding the pose. So if the yoga pose was jealousy in your body, you want to hold it, and this is a time to practice mindfulness and breathe into the emotion. A lot of people don't know what that means, to breathe into the emotion. It means literally, can you be with the jealousy? Can you sit with it? Another way of saying that is, can you maybe do nothing in response to the pose that is the jealousy? So you might lean back in your seat. You might feel the jealousy in your body. Notice what sensations come up. Is it heat? Is there an impulse to run? Is there an impulse to shake? Is your jaw clenched? And can you, like I said, hold it? What happens if you don't react to the jealousy, but you almost just let it be there without jumping to a conclusion? Now, a lot of people are going to wonder, like, well, okay, how long do I do that for, Natalie? What if I'm with my partner and there's a tense moment and I don't know what to say? I don't know what to do if I don't react to the jealousy. Yes, maybe. That's maybe true. And also, you would be surprised at how effective it is to pause and let there be an awkward silence and let there be stillness. There can be a great power in waiting to see what happens. There have been many discussions, arguments even with my partner, where things are really, really tense, and we sit in silence for 10 minutes, just like holding the pose. It's like, okay, I'm not going to run away from this discussion. Not that there's anything wrong with dismissing yourself or to take time. That's nothing wrong with that. But in those moments, what happens if I don't run or come and attack and try to control your experience? What if I sit in that middle spot where I do nothing and I just let the jealousy exist? Okay. In my program, Both Feet In, I teach a phenomenal exercise called the awareness exercise. And the reason I teach this practice is because ideally you want to be able to do the awareness exercise all the time. I literally did it today. I was on Instagram and, some coach that I really like is having a hard time. And I brought up some feelings for me. I was like, oh, what if that happens to me? And I noticed I was like reaching for food to like kind of numb the discomfort. And I was like, okay, check in. And I did the holding of the pose of the fear. It's like, okay, what happens if I don't do anything? What if I don't eat, but I also don't completely go down the spiral of the shame thoughts, right? What if I just hold the pose, right? So emotions are like yoga poses. Can you hold them? So number 1 is have your own life. Number 2 is lean back with your energy and practice holding the pose, practice mindfulness, okay? Number 3, and this is the fun part, is play with it. Jealousy, believe it or not, depending on how it is used, can be fun, it can be playful, it can even be a turn on. So a lot of us are kind of stuck between these extremes of acting on the jealousy and trying to control our partner and trying to fix them, make sure that they never see anybody ever again, lock them in a cage and like suffocate them to death, right? That's one extreme. And then the other extreme, like I said earlier on in this episode, is I completely spiritually bypass it and pretend it doesn't exist, right? And neither of these approaches are particularly effective. I've done both and I recommend neither. So once you know how to hold the pose and learn to actually I don't know if this is, it's really difficult. This is way easier said than done, I swear. But you want to integrate it. And so the first step might just be saying, wow, and this is a very humbling, beautiful thing to offer your partner and say, wow, I'm feeling jealous right now. I'm feeling jealous. I'm imagining you, making out with this person in the future. And when I have that thought, I feel so jealous. I feel this heat inside my chest. I feel so scared. I feel so frustrated. I feel so angry. I don't know what to do. Right? So that can be a really beautiful offering to your partner to reveal your flawed human heart to them. It can be so beautiful to admit, look at me, I'm jealous. It's hard to admit jealousy. It's such a vulnerable thing. We don't want to admit that someone has such a strong hold on us, but to offer it to your partner and say, look at me, I'm jealous. What do I do? It happened to me. I got jealous. Wow, I thought I was not a jealous person, but look, here I am. I'm flawed. It can be so beautiful and so vulnerable. As my husband gets more and more into his process and explores himself and develops, and so freaking sexy. It's like, I feel it sometimes, and it's been very healing, I think, for me, and a beautiful gift to him for me to humbly admit, yeah, I'm afraid of losing you. And I love you and I want you to continue to grow. And I love knowing that other people find you attractive. I don't know what to do with that. Like I said, not a problem to solve, but a dilemma to manage, as Esther Perel might say. Now, a more, I guess, Madeline, you guys know I love Madeline Moon. I really want to have her on the podcast soon. But a more Madeline Moonian approach might be to playfully admit what your jealousy would like to do. So this is where you take your jealousy and you integrate it. So for example, Preston and I have this inside joke where I will like if there's a woman that looks at him in the way that I don't like, I'll tell him, I plan to have my bird drone come down and like bomb her. Or like, I will be murdering all the women that lay their eyes on you. You know, things like this. Obviously, I have gone to more theatrical lengths to display what my jealousy would like to do. But just naming it and admitting the ridiculousness of my thoughts and giving them permission to exist to the extent that they exist. Maybe I'm not actually going to act on it and like murder women that look at Preston in a way that I don't like, but I might say that I would like to. And it does a couple of things. Number one, it frees me from the shame of having jealousy. It allows me to playfully own a very real part of myself, a very real, vulnerable part of myself. And also my partner gets to feel sexy. My partner gets to feel like desired. And he, at the same time, he's not feeling suffocated or constricted. It's like I'm offering my playful neurosis to him as a gift, as entertainment. You do have to have the mindfulness enough to not be consumed by your jealousy, which often requires being in two places at the same time. It's like being in the experience of jealousy enough to feel it fully, but also to be in the observer's seat, to not have it control how you show up in the relationship. So this is what I mean by being in two places at the same time. Can you be the experience and also the witness of the experience at the same time? My program, Both Feet In, teaches this a lot. So I'm going to put Both Feet In the show notes. It's actually, there's a payment plan available now, which is really cool. I friggin' love Both Feet In. It was my, like, ugh, I love the program. I had so much fun making it. So it's really the only program I have out right now that is kind of a long-standing signature program that is what Anxious Love Coach stands for. The big thing in Both Feet In is the awareness exercise. So if you are wondering how to work with difficult emotions within partnership, yes, including anxiety and what anxiety kind of covers, awareness exercise will help you a lot. My teacher, Steffi Price, taught me in Austria, and it can help with jealousy too. So that is kind of the third way. It's like, don't let it take you over, but don't stuff it down either. It's like, have the mindfulness enough to acknowledge it, to be with it, and then start to kind of humbly play with it. Like, oh, look at me, I'm jealous. All right, here's what my jealousy would like to do. Would you like to know? And then offer it as a gift. And who knows, this has resulted in a lot of eros in my partnership. So if you let jealousy consume you, and you start acting out, well, you're going to take away the safety in the relationship and the autonomy that creates desire. If you completely stuff it down and pretend that it's not there, well, you're not creating the drama that creates play and fun. So that sweet spot in the middle, it's a dance. A sweet spot in the middle is like, okay, how do I not necessarily get rid of jealousy? Because it can be it's actually really beautiful to have a little bit of jealousy in your relationship because it creates spice. To be jealous of your partner, or to be jealous of someone who kind of has eyes for your partner, it, on some level, lets you know that your partner is desirable. And that can be kind of a total turn on. So if you're not having any jealousy in your relationship, that doesn't mean anything's wrong with your relationship. It just means you either have a lot of safety or you have a lot of an illusion of safety. Personally, I think there's always an illusion of safety to some degree, because we all have shadows that we don't expose to our partners. So there is that. But jealousy is not a bad thing. It can be a really erotic experience within partnership. So, and it's painful. It can be. So just as I often say, two things are true. So The 3 tips in summary: if you are experiencing jealousy for yourself within partnership, number 1, have your own life. Number 2, lean back, don't react. And number 3, consciously play with your jealousy. Integrate it, I would say. Okay? So I hope that those have been helpful for you. Both Feed In is currently available for purchase if that's something you're interested. It's my love course. And another thing, something that I have not announced anywhere publicly. I've done like a little tiny hinting at it, but I'm actually going to announce it here first. Because like I said, I want to have more people listening to the podcast, and I'm trying to transition more to podcasting and long form content as opposed to just being on Instagram. So if you are an avid podcast listener, you are getting an advantage right now. I did mention my teacher, Steffi Price in Austria. She is, if you ever listened to episode 1 of my podcast, you heard me talk about having a breakdown/breakthrough from relationship anxiety at her house in Austria. Now, she's not a relationship anxiety coach. She's a phenomenal meditation teacher and embodiment practitioner, and does a lot of trauma work. And so when I went there by myself a few years ago, this is really what I needed. And oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but like, she and I have partnered and are going to be hosting 2 retreats at her house in Austria next summer. So I don't have a webpage. I don't have a website. Steffi has a page on her website, but or just like a page on her website with pictures like of her home and space. So that's all we have right now. Believe it or not, I have actually filled up 4 spots just from word of mouth. So this podcast is definitely a smaller community than the 100,000 that are beautifully on Instagram and the 450,000 that are on TikTok. But if you are a listener, you are getting an advantage right now, and then I'm giving you a heads up because we have 2 retreats and we have 8 spots in each. So I can give you more information via email if you email me. And so just send me an email, Natalie@anxiouslovecoach.com, and just say, Natalie, I heard your podcast. I want to go to Europe. Can you send me the dates, pricing, details, and all these things? It's a 4-hour train out of Vienna. It's super affordable because it's at her house, so there's not a lot of overhead fees. And it's going to be really gorgeous. It really is. It's not a relationship anxiety retreat. It definitely will be much more about self-trust and self-love. I am going to be leading a few sessions on Eros and desire. But other than that, it's really a retreat for working with the inner relationship, and if you have got different sides of yourself that can't seem to get on the same page, if you find that there's lack of congruency in your life, or maybe you are trying to get something and yet you keep somehow ending up with the opposite circumstance. A lot of times there's shadow aspects that are getting in the way. So that is really what the retreat's about, is kind of, navigating the inner relationship, which coincidentally will help with relationship anxiety, because relationship anxiety is a manifestation of parts of yourself not being able to get on the same page. So it's definitely a more generic retreat with a little bit of a relational twist because I'm there. But if you do have relationship anxiety, the work is the same. It will help you with that as well. So if you are interested, please shoot me an email and say, hey, I want to come to Austria. If you are in Europe, oh my God, you should come. So email me, tell me that you want more details. Again, I have already sold 4 spots, just word of mouth with no website. So I have not done like a giant announcement, but if you are a podcast listener and you'd like to attend, it's co-ed, which is really exciting. Please email me. So that's it. I'm going to, I'm going to put both Feed in the show notes. I'm not going to put my email out there because I get so many emails. So Natalie@anxiouslovecoach.com. Simple. All right. And that's it. I hope you got a lot out of this episode. I love you so much. And we're going to be having some great guests coming up very soon. And if this is the last episode you're hearing before the new year, happy holidays. Happy New Year. I love you so much. And thanks for being such a wonderful subscriber. Have a great day. If you love Anxious Love Coach, please leave us a review. Every month, I will be choosing one review, posting the username on my Instagram page, and offering that person a personalized voice message response to any question of their choice via private message. Thanks for listening to the Anxious Love Coach today. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Please also subscribe to my email list at anxiouslovecoach.com as I'm trying to reduce my reliance on social media. In exchange, you'll receive my free relationship anxiety meditation and a ton of information that I won't share to the general public about my personal challenges and learnings within relationship. If you would like to work with me and or my co-coach, head on over to my website and click Start Here. Thanks for listening and catch you in the next episode.